Tonight, a shocking report from the Auditor General highlighting millions in wasteful spending on agency nurses.
Simply not acceptable.
And opposition parties call for police to investigate after the AG also finds instances of potential fraud.
The deputy mayor and mayor are both running for the top seat in Corner Brook. Chasson says that this place needs to be a lot more open to the taxpayers, while Parsons says it's never been more transparent.
I think my reputation has been a good one, and we'll see how it goes.
I want to move the city probably in a different direction. I want to use the philosophy of team approach.
These two are going head to head. I'll break it down for you tonight.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. An explosive report from the Auditor General today investigating Newfoundland and Labrador Health Services' use of agency nurses. The AG says the authority spent nearly $250 million on agency nurses over 3 years without proper financial controls. She also highlights instances of possible fraud and tens of millions of dollars of wasteful spending. The CBC's Heather Gillis reports.
Simply not acceptable.
After red flags about agency nurse costs popped up, Auditor General Denise Hanrahan started investigating. Today, she released this damning report.
At the start of this audit, I expected the health authority to manage those contracts appropriately. To say our audit found the opposite of that is an understatement.
The report says the province's health authorities didn't follow proper financial protocols or processes, signing contracts under emergency exemptions instead of using open, public processes. Hanrahan says health authorities spent $241 million on 11 agencies over 3 years between 2022 and 2024. And there were big problems with one company in particular, anonymously called Agency A.
We do know Agency A is an outlier. They seem to be have a lot more issues.
Central Health paid Agency A $546,000 for electric vehicle rentals, even after its original proposal for those rentals was rejected. Some rentals were billed for nurses who weren't in the province at the time, leaving Hanrahan suspecting fraud.
The health authority said no, and then they billed anyway. But we see the billings increasing over time. We saw that with expense reimbursement. And for us, from a fraud perspective, it's a lot of times how that happens, right? You try a little bit, you try some more, you keep going. It just shows the importance of making sure that when somebody makes a decision to release $1 of public money, it's the right thing to pay.
49 health authority staff violated conflict of interest rules 53 times for leasing property to agency nurses, sometimes at nearly double the market rate, with the director overseeing agency recruitment even billing $53,000. There were also payments for nurse overtime without proof it was worked. A sample of 7% of all invoices show $4 million in overpayments alone. Agency A billed for things like a vacuum, air fryer, and a milk frother. There was also a $10,000 charge for a 48-night hotel stay in Gander, repayments to a spouse of a nurse for a hotel in Winnipeg.
In my opinion, it shows a complete lack of respect for public funds.
Agency nurses were also used even when 72 casual nurses were laid off for a short period, citing a work shortage. Auditors also found that, on average, agencies billed $404,000 per nurse last year, while a mid-career staff nurse costs, on average, $118,000. Hanrahan issued 15 recommendations for Newfoundland and Labrador Health Services, which today was doing damage control. CEO Pat Parfrey says during the pandemic there was an unprecedented pressure as people got sick. Nurses resigned.
We needed agency nurses as fast as possible and immediately because people were dying. And we were coming into hospitals that were going to be closed down. And we had to get them immediately. People seem to have forgotten that COVID was a traumatic period. And the nurses who stayed in those hospitals during that period of time and didn't go into the grand resignation are heroes.
He says they accept all the AG recommendations and are at various stages of working on them, including opening an internal audit office. They're reviewing Agency A's billings to recoup some costs, but no longer do business with that company. Meanwhile, Parfrey says the health system still needs agency nurses, about 200 of them working 40,000 hours until the end of this year. The Auditor General says recently the health authorities have reduced their use of agency nurses, but because there are not enough of them. Meanwhile, she also says this isn't the end of her investigation into healthcare contracts. She says there's more to come. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Now, the Provincial Health Minister acknowledges the report is concerning. Crystalline Howell says a lack of policies within the former 4 health authorities is at the core of the findings. Howell says she's directed NL Health Services to review the Auditor General's recommendations.
I'm assured by conversations with the CEO that they've undertaken a lot of measures to remedy these things, and as I said, there are certain directives that will come from the department now, ensuring that they continue to prioritize this work to absolutely address any concerns or questions of fraudulent activity or misappropriation of funds. So that'll be a top priority, as well as implementing their internal audit functions to make sure that they have accountability and oversight in the things that are happening on their watch.
Now, the province's opposition parties are calling for stronger action. Leaders of the Progressive Conservatives and the NDP want a full police investigation into the potential instances of fraud, and they want the province to assume responsibility.
I would have preferred for all of these recommendations that should have been dealt with a long time ago. That's my biggest issue with this. This was a known issue. We've known about this problem for a long time. We've gone through 3 different health ministers, including the current premier, who was health minister, who would have been briefed on this file, who should have been up to date on this file, should have known what was going on, should have taken action. Nothing happened, and now we have an Auditor General finally releasing a report, and they're actually saying now they're going to accept the recommendations. Should have been done ages ago.
I'd need a thesaurus to go through the adjectives now for what I would want to say, but it's unacceptable at this stage. How many reports we've had in the last few months? The same thing, identifying similar, I would say, similar issues that need to be addressed, and it's great for the government to blame the, or put the on the, like, distance themselves from it, I should say, and put it on the Newfoundland and Labrador Health Services, but they bear a lot of the responsibility as well.
Well, now we take you back to Conception Bay North after some dramatic moments yesterday afternoon. Residents in the community of Victoria are wondering what's next after most members of the fire department there walked off the job. The CBC's Jenna Head reports.
This is one of the saddest days of my life. Standing up here today and to have to do this.
As the smoke clears and dust settles on the town of Victoria, residents are wondering what's next after most of the town's volunteer fire department resigned and its mayor implied no one would be there to protect them.
If we have a fire now in our house, who's going to protect us from the fire? That's scary.
That's the fire scope. Walk in there, 90% of them, and I, as the mayor, the last 12 years, swore 90% of them in there, and they swore an oath to protect and serve this town, not to protect and serve one person.
That one person Dooley is referring to is former Fire Chief Justin Parsons. He led the walkout and 20 out of 24 of the town's firemen quit alongside him, but the community will not be without protection.
Salmon Cove's Fire Chief Jeremy Swain told CBC the town held a meeting last night and his fire department has been mandated to answer all calls in Victoria during their time of need. Carboneer will also respond.
What's not clear is how a dispute about a lock and key to a facility holding an old pumper truck became a yelling match in the fire hall's parking lot.
This is the result of the Fire Commissioner's Office and the province removing themselves from I guess, the politics of the fire service. Years ago, when the old commissioner was there back in the early 2000s, he would get ready, come out, mediate between towns and fire departments. Like, I mean, fire chiefs used to be able to call these people and say, you know, we're having an issue, we're having a disagreement. Can you come out and explain their role and our role and try to mediate? And I mean, that's the way it used to be. But nowadays, that's not their role.
CBC News has reached out to the Heritage Society and Victoria Mayor Barry Dooley. They did not respond by deadline. Jenna Head, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, now to the West Coast, where a longtime Corner Brook City Councillor wants to push the mayor out of his seat and move in. Here Now's Colleen Connors has more on the upcoming municipal election.
Linda Chason has been a city councillor for 16 years and deputy mayor for the past 4. But now she wants the top spot. A retired teacher who raised her family here, she says she has become the people's voice at the table.
I want to open the doors and say, this is your city hall. You're paying the taxes in here. You're keeping everything afloat. You should be here to tell us number one, what we can do better, how we can improve, and if we're doing a really good job, come in and let us know.
Chason feels the city could be more transparent about their decisions around big projects.
I don't think there's anything to complain about from the deputy's perspective.
Parsons has been in the top seat for 8 years and says the city has never been more transparent. When he was first elected, he did away with the council's closed meetings. He enjoys being mayor of the West Coast city and is especially proud of the new recreation centre that just opened.
I think that there is a difference in governing and having to solve problems instead of being in opposition.
So far, these are the only 2 candidates vying for the mayor's seat in the next election. They have always been divided on council issues. One thing they both agree on, the city's next biggest project is treating its raw sewage that goes out into the Bay of Islands, a project that comes with a massive cost. They also say there should be more focus on supporting businesses in the city and recruiting and retaining young families.
I want to move the city probably in a different direction. I want to use the philosophy of team approach. I want to work with everybody.
Yeah, I think my reputation has been a good one, and we'll see how it goes.
These 2 plan on campaigning through the summer months, with the election scheduled for October 2nd. An issue that both of them have is with voter burnout. The looming provincial election may be right around the same time. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Corner Brook.
Well, a woman originally from St. Brendan's is sharing her experience watching Iranian missiles get intercepted in Saudi Arabia. Alison Furlong has lived in Doha for the past 12 years, and she says it was alarming to watch Iran's retaliatory attack on a U.S. military base, though there were no injuries or damage.
I received an alert on my phone that said that an attack on the U.S. military base was imminent. And then about 5 minutes later, we heard very loud noises outside, and we saw missile interception overhead. So quite an experience. In the sky, you could see lights, almost similar to fireworks, I suppose, in a way. And my first thought was that, wow, these are the missiles coming. And then I realized, oh, okay, they're being intercepted. So over time, it was like once I realized what I was seeing, it became a little bit less jarring. And then I understood.
Well, the province's fire ban has been lifted, but the government's still urging caution. This ban prevented open fires as well as setting of fires on forest land or within 300 meters of forest land. The lifting of the ban means that people are now permitted to do things like backyard fires, campfires, or boil-ups, though the province warns fires near forests need to be screened. Also, a permit is still required for brush burning. And today, certainly warm out there. Temperatures well above where we should be sitting this time of year, nearing 30 degrees in Terra Nova. We are going to say goodbye to these temperatures, though, as we head through the next couple of days. We certainly have some cooler air on the way. Chilly night tonight. There's even the risk of frost for some low-lying areas. Some showers and cooler temperatures will continue Thursday, even into Friday. But there is a bit of a warm-up on the way. And also coming up, big news for PWHL hockey fans in this province. They'll have a new player to cheer for. I'll speak with Abby Newhook and her family next. Also, some exciting news for hockey fans.
With the second pick in the 5th round of the 2025 PWHL draft, the Boston Fleet select Abby Newhook from Boston College.
As you see there, Abby Newhook has been drafted into the Professional Women's Hockey League. She was drafted 34th overall by the Boston Fleet, and she's no stranger to the city. For the last 4 years, Newhook played for Boston College. Newhook is now the second athlete from this province to be drafted into the PWHL, following in the footsteps of Toronto Scepter's Maggie Connors. As well, Newhook's brother Alex is an NHL player. I caught up with the Newhook family today in Montreal. What an exciting day. Thank you so much for talking with me. So Abby, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling super excited. The past 24 hours has just been crazy. Something I've
dreamed of my whole life, and now it's finally here. So yeah, I'm just super excited. Boston is a place that's become home for me in the past, 7 years. So being able to go back there is just a dream come true.
Has it sunk in yet?
Not really, no. Yeah, I woke up this morning and I'm like, it's crazy. I think it will take a little bit of time to sink in, but I love the support from back home, from Boston, and I'm just super excited to get started there.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I heard you last night mention you had some friends from Newfoundland there. How special was that?
Yeah, it was super special. I had 7 friends from Boston College come down, and then 2 friends from home as well who I grew up with. So having them there while I got to, live out my childhood dream was something I've never been able to, imagine before. And their support has just been great, ever since I left home and just right up until this point.
And how are you all going to celebrate?
Yeah, I mean, we're in Montreal right now, actually, at Alex's spot. Last night, we had like a little after party with the Boston Fleet and got to meet the other prospects and that sort of thing. And then today, just going to hang out with family and friends here in Montreal. It's a beautiful day, so we're looking forward to it.
And I know that you and Maggie Connors are friends. So I'm curious, is there going to be a little bit of a rivalry going now that you two are on different teams playing against each other?
Yeah, I'd say a little bit. Yeah, me and Maggie are super close. I've always looked up to her. We've been training partners for a while now at home. We grew up, I started training with her in 6th grade. So being able to, see how successful she's been and then being able to learn from her has been something that I'll cherish forever. And I'm really grateful for our friendship.
So how do you think being a professional hockey player is going to change your life?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely going to change a lot. Obviously, you go from college where you're going to classes all day long, you learn different stuff year by year, but now translating to the professional league, it's a bit different. You're playing with a lot of older girls, people with, many different backgrounds, have played at many different schools. So, and then again, you're also just in, a city with playing against so many different teams. So yeah, I think it's exciting. It's definitely different. It'll take time to adjust, but I'm looking forward to it.
And so this summer, I assume you're going to take that time. What are you going to do this summer to prepare?
Yeah, I'm just going to continue on my training plan. I've been working with Brian Power at home for strength and conditioning. And then later into the summer, I'm going to come back to Boston and train here with a lot of the girls. There's a lot of skates going on and a lot of familiar faces that I'll be able to see with, and hopefully some of the Fleet girls. So, yeah.
Yeah, so Alex, I have a question for you because you went through this 6 years ago. How did you help her prepare?
Yeah, I just tried to keep it light. Obviously, it's a big moment and it's highly anticipated. So just to kind of relax and try to take it all in is the biggest thing. I remember when I was going through my draft, it goes by very quick and you remember some of the small moments pretty briefly and faintly. So just try to, encourage her to take it all in, enjoy it with a lot of her friends and companions she's played with and against. And I think she did that and tried to enjoy it as much as she could. And we had a great day yesterday.
That's amazing. And Mom and Dad, how does it feel to have 2 professional hockey players in the family?
It's pretty exciting, I gotta say. I mean, you'd never really think when the kids were growing up and just playing minor hockey that both of their dreams would come true. But I guess it certainly shows that, hard work and effort, it is possible for their dreams to come true. So we're ecstatic.
Very exciting. Congratulations to all of you. What an exciting day. And, I, and I'm sure many Newfoundlanders and Labradorians are looking forward to following you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Well, Ashley, the hot summer weather returned today in the east.
It certainly did. It felt quite nice out there today at one point, or all the time, but we did see some showers move through earlier today. Let's take a look at what's going on. Unfortunately, the radar is down. The Holyrood radar is down due to some technical issues, and it looks like it'll be back up on Saturday. But having said that, those showers kind of felt like they came out of nowhere this afternoon because we couldn't see them on the radar. But we did see some thunderstorms as well just off the coast of the northeast coast there, and even a few rumbles of thunder across the Avalon as well. But that has since moved off. And we've got this ridge of high pressure that will move in, but a little bit of unsettled weather to get through until we get there. There's a look at some of that lightning from earlier today, and the northeast Avalon did see, like I said, one lightning strike. So if you heard the rumbles of thunder, no, you weren't making it up. It was definitely there. But we certainly have some clear skies as we head through the night tonight, and those temperatures that we're seeing right now are going to fall quite rapidly tonight. But for now, we're still sitting at 24 degrees in St. John's, 28 with that humidex. Even through Terra Nova, your temperatures were quite warm today. You topped out at 30 degrees. And if we take a look at the humidex this afternoon at around 2 o'clock rather, you topped out at about 35 with that humidex. Definitely seeing that drop now, and we're saying goodbye to that humidity, finally seeing some relief. And the reason for that shift to more northwesterly flow, and that is also why we're going to continue to see those temperatures drop through the night tonight. But like I said, the muggy weather will end, and we're really not going to see any of that in the long range forecast, at least until we get into next week. So for tonight, continue to see some shower chances up across Labrador, Northern Peninsula, even through parts of Central. We may see a few showers overnight, but clear skies will lead to some cool nights, a cool night rather, through parts of Central and really low-lying areas. So there is a risk that we will see some frost tonight. So keep that in mind if you have any frost-sensitive plants and you live in low-lying areas, you know who you are. But overall, those winds will shift, hence those cooler temperatures. And we're still looking at those shower chances up across Labrador as well. That will continue through a good chunk of the day tomorrow, especially for Labrador. And then as we head into the afternoon, some pop-up showers will likely happen through central and eastern areas. This could be, again, another risk of some thunderstorms into the afternoon, so keep that in mind. If you do have any outdoor plans tomorrow, they should move through by the time we get into tomorrow afternoon and evening for, again, central and eastern areas of the island, but that risk will certainly continue until then. And then showers for Labrador. We really won't see any relief of that until we get through the overnight. And then parts of the west coast, again, tomorrow evening. Then you are looking at your chance of some more showers. That will move through fairly quickly as we get into early Friday morning. Temperatures tomorrow are going to sit much cooler than today, nearly 10 degrees in some cases, but generally sitting in the teens. We'll say goodbye to that humidity for a little while as well, but those winds will be out of the northwest, somewhere between 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. Later in the day, we'll see them switch again back to southeasterlies for the Avalon. So your temperatures will certainly feel cool in onshore flow. Other than that, we're looking at the potential for some showers pretty much all day for the Northern Peninsula. Overall, your temperatures will be sitting between 10 to 11 degrees. And then coastal areas of Labrador hanging on to those single digits with the rest of the big land sitting somewhere between 10 to 13 degrees. Again, though, the winds will be breezy for those of you in Lab West. You'll be dealing with northwesterly somewhere between 40 to as much as 60 kilometers per hour, and your temperatures ranging generally in the teens. Now, this will be the end of that, though, because your temperatures are definitely going to warm up as we head towards the weekend. We've got one more cool day to get through on Friday, but Saturday and Sunday, looking at those temperatures returning to the 20s, and along with some sunshine in some cases, but I'll break all of that down for you coming up a little later.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, returning now to our top story, the Auditor General is slamming Newfoundland and Labrador Health Services for what she considers major overspending on travel nurses. Denise Hanrahan's report outlines nearly $250 million spent on travel nurses over the past 3 years. She calls it an unacceptable use of taxpayer money.
Since 2022, the authority has made increasing use of agency nurses to deliver services, from $18 million in 2022 to over $132 million spent in 2024. At the start of this audit, I expected the Health Authority to manage those contracts appropriately. To say our audit found the opposite of that is an understatement. The authority did not follow their own processes in the procurement of agency nursing services or even best practice. They did not solicit bids, but rather continued to use emergency exemptions, which were not in accordance with procurement policy. They accepted contract language that was vague, it advantaged the nursing agencies, and it included payments for administrative services that were not needed or that didn't even require validating information. There was little evidence that a thorough assessment of agency credibility or capability was conducted when a $28 million contract was signed in 2022 to a company that had less than 2 years' experience in the business. Simply not acceptable. We identified over $4 million worth of potential overpayments, and this figure came from a sample test of about 7% of invoices. And for context, in that sample, we found that almost 3 out of 4 invoices lacked the proper documentation for payment. 3 out of 4. And those overpayments resulted from places where payments were made, where work was performed but couldn't be supported by a timesheet, where there were charges for electric vehicles were unsubstantiated, or where non-reimbursable expenses were paid. In my opinion, it shows a complete lack of respect for public funds. Most concerning is when the authority said no to a vendor who offered a service. In this particular case, it would be electrical vehicles at above market rates, but they paid for it and then didn't even seem to know that they did when we asked. Concerning accommodations for agency nursing, we found 49 employees entered into 53 leases with contract nurses in violation of conflict of interest legislation. No one disclosed it or saw it was an issue until an external event triggered the discussion. We found almost $1.9 million in rent was paid to those employees between 2022 and 2024. This rent was paid at a 90% premium over known market rates. More wasted public money from a lack of process. The disregard for policy, legislation, and internal controls with respect to contract compliance is simply inexcusable. By March of this year, the average agency nurse will cost the province more than $400,000 annually, typically working more overtime and resulting in less service for the money spent when compared to staff.
Well, it was an alarming sight for people living in Qatar. Iran's retaliatory attack on a U.S. military base in Qatar on Monday lit up the sky as the missiles were intercepted by the air defense system. No damage was done and there were no injuries. Iran launched the attack in response to the United States bombing 3 of its nuclear sites on the weekend. Alison Furlong has lived in Doha for about 12 years. She's originally from the community of St. Brendan's, and she joins me now. Thank you so much for being here.
Great to be here, Carolyn.
So can you tell us about your experience on Monday? What did you hear in the lead up to the attack?
Well, I guess in the lead up, it was like any other Monday. People were going to work, they were going about their day, their lives. And around lunchtime, some American friends had messaged me and said that their embassy told them to shelter in place. I had not received anything. Other expats had not received anything. So we weren't really sure what to think. There were several hours in the afternoon where, it was just normal. Then around 6:30 p.m. local time, the airspace closed in Qatar. And then close to 7:30 p.m., I received an alert on my phone that said that an attack on the U.S. military base was imminent. And then about 5 minutes later, we heard very loud noises outside, and we saw missile interception overhead. So quite an experience.
I bet. What went through your mind in those moments when you saw the lights in the sky and you heard the explosions? What did you think was happening? Like, did you realize that the missiles were being intercepted? How concerned were you?
Well, it definitely sounded like it was far away, but at the same time, it was that very loud boom like you hear in the movies, So it was very obvious that, it was a bomb, it was a missile, this is what was going on. In the sky, you could see lights, almost similar to fireworks, I suppose, in a way. And my first thought was that, wow, these are the missiles coming. And then I realized, oh, okay, they're being intercepted. So over time, it was like once I realized what I was seeing, it became a little bit less jarring. And then I understood, okay, these missiles are being intercepted. They're essentially being shut down, But initially, I was thinking, oh, gosh, is this going to, come near where we are? But at the same time, I guess I did take comfort in the fact that we're actually in more of the northern part of Doha, in a place called Lusail, but the U.S. military base is about 25 kilometers away to the southwest. So it was, I guess, relatively far away from us in comparison to some of the other areas in Doha.
Can you tell us a bit about this province's expat community in Doha? Were you speaking with other Newfoundlanders and Labradorians who are living there? How did people react to the attack?
Yeah, so there's quite a few Newfoundlanders around and Canadians as well. I think perhaps some of the most troubling experiences were those who had smaller kids and they were saying, oh, it's fireworks, or, oh, it's just, they were trying to explain, what it was. But for the most part, I think that people ultimately, they're okay. They realized that, the missiles were intercepted. They did feel safe. And I think most people would agree that they feel that it was an isolated incident. And speaking for myself, and I think for many others, we don't feel unsafe at the moment. Honestly, I'm just going about my day now. Everybody's going about, continuing on with their lives. So it was, I think, a very surreal experience. But in some ways, I feel that it was strangely eye-opening in the sense that, there are many people around the world, thinking of those in Gaza in particular. This is their day-to-day lives. They do not have a missile defense system. They're in many cases waiting for the next bomb to drop. So it's definitely eye-opening to experience something like this in a more safe environment, because you really see how those in war-torn countries are unfortunately so affected. And I can't imagine the psychological trauma that must come with this, dealing with this each and every day.
Yeah, certainly gives you some perspective. Allison Furlong, thank you so much for connecting with us and telling us about your experience.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Now, still with this story, U.S. President Donald Trump is insisting that Iran's nuclear facilities were obliterated after the U.S. strikes on Saturday. He's rejecting leaked U.S. intelligence reports that say the attacks set back Tehran's nuclear program only by a few months. Sam Sampson has the latest from Washington.
With the ceasefire between Israel and Iran holding, humanitarian crews get a moment to breathe and assess damage from days of strikes. Trump has repeatedly said his Saturday strikes obliterated 3 Iranian nuclear sites.
I said, Iran will not have nuclear. Well, we blew it up. It's blown up to kingdom come.
But there are major contradictions coming from several U.S. media outlets reporting on a leaked intelligence document. They're reporting that the U.S. attack did not destroy Iran's nuclear program, but rather set it back a few months, and that Iran moved enriched uranium before the strikes. Trump's staff denies the information.
We're doing a leak investigation with the FBI right now because this information is for internal purposes, battle damage assessments, and CNN and others are trying to spin it to make the president look bad when this was an overwhelming success.
Now, Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson would only say that the sites were badly damaged. The world is waiting for the United Nations nuclear watchdog to issue its report on the damage done. Iran today said it would cut ties with that group since it has not condemned the U.S. bombings, but that UN team insists it needs to get into Iran and assess what happened.
It was military action until yesterday, so there is, of course, common sense and dignity that we need to respect. But at the same time, we have said we need to return.
Donald Trump's objective was to destroy Iran's work to build a nuclear weapon. But some analysts say if the sites were not completely destroyed, as this leaked report suggests, that's a problem.
If you leave a country with enrichment sites, the ability to make more centrifuges, and 900 pounds of enriched uranium, no matter how great of a job you did blowing some things up, you've still fallen short of your goal.
U.S. lawmakers were supposed to receive a classified debrief on the American strikes on Tuesday, but those were postponed at the last minute. Now the hope is for more information and the truth about the damage to come out in meetings on Thursday. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Washington.
Well, the NATO leaders summit in the Netherlands has wrapped with a historic new agreement. Member nations agreed to a dramatic increase in their defense spending, more than doubling their previous target of 2% of GDP to 5% by 2035. Now, for Canada, that amounts to $150 billion per year. Prime Minister Mark Carney says the spending hike is needed to confront current and future threats against the alliance.
If we want the world of tomorrow to be shaped by our values, Canada must be ready. If we want a more secure world, we need a stronger Canada that works with our allies. And today is a very important step to build both.
Well, Donald Trump had made a spending increase a condition of continued U.S. support for NATO. But member nations have agreed to review the new 5% target in 2029. That's the year Trump is slated to leave office. Back in this province, as the Newfoundland Regiment hockey team continues to get ready to hit the ice for the first time this fall, they've announced the broadcast team for the inaugural season. 17-year-old Seth Hyde will be the club's play-by-play announcer. Longtime hockey announcer Brian Rogers is also set to support the color commentary. Hyde has been a rising star in announcing Canadian minor hockey. He began calling games when he was just 12 years old. He's also an alumni of the NHL Power Players Youth Advisory Board. The action starts in September at the Mary Brown Centre. Well, the school year is wrapping up, and some kindergarten students from Peacock Primary School in Happy Valley Goose Bay are sharing what they learned during their first year in school.
If you were talking to somebody who was about to go to kindergarten for the first time, what would you say to them?
Listen to the teachers. You always have to listen.
Listen to your teacher.
Ella, what is the most important thing that you learned in kindergarten this year?
Appropriate, safe, and kind. Pay attention to teachers.
What was your favorite thing you did in kindergarten this year?
Play with toys.
What toys do you like to play with the best?
The bus.
Liam, what is the most important thing that you learned in kindergarten this year?
Play on the bus.
And if somebody was going to kindergarten, what advice would you give them if they were going to kindergarten for the very first time?
I don't know, but TV.
So here's what we've gathered from talking to local residents.
I spoke with a renter who's facing eviction this fall.
It is not for the weak of stomachs.
What does it mean for you to be able to give that advice and to know that you've helped?
Don't look down.
If this is something that you didn't know about, let me tell you.
Heather Gillis, CBC News, Happy Valley Goose Bay.
St. John's.
Corner Brook.
Shaji, Inuk First Nation.
Grand Falls, Windsor.
New West Valley, Newfoundland and Labrador.
have a fantastic TikTok video to show you. It shows a dramatic moment with an iceberg in Twillingate last week. Have a look.
Yeah, Elizabeth Earle posted this video. She says witnessing this made for quite the afternoon in the Bayview area.
Look at that. I guess, Ashley, the warm weather there, the sunshine causing all those pieces of the iceberg to break off like that. Wow, that is such a great video. Her video has been viewed nearly 550,000 times on TikTok. What a great moment to capture. It's not often you get to see that much ice break off a giant iceberg like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I've seen that video floating around quite a while, or quite a few times. Floating around.
No pun intended.
You do that on purpose. Yeah, it's beautiful. Great video.
Yeah, fantastic. And
It's
what
nice
a
to be able to capture
beautiful, beautiful weather here in Twillingate as well. Lots of icebergs out there, apparently.
Yep, and lots of beautiful weather to see them as well. We've been really lucky with the temperatures for sure. But we're going to have a little bit of a cool down over the next couple of days, but the warmth will return.
Right.
It'll return. Let's take a look at what's going on until we get there. So Thursday evening, like I said, there's a chance we'll see or hear a few rumbles of thunder through central and eastern areas of the island into the afternoon and evening hours. And some showers will continue up across Labrador as well through the overnight. Then for Friday morning, we'll likely see a few showers still lingering along the northeast coast. We have the onshore winds as well. And that is going to keep those temperatures a little bit on the cool side through the day on Friday. A little bit more cloud cover expected up across Labrador, chance of showers as well through the day. But really, for the most part, Friday, other than cool temperatures and those showers for the first part of the day, it's actually going to be fairly nice, especially for southern areas of the island. Overall, daytime highs will sit in the single digits for the Avalon. That will be where the coolest air will be. But then looking at temperatures between 10 to about 16 degrees for the rest of the island. Labrador towards the coast, 9 to 12 degrees, but starting to get into some of that milder air for central and western portions of Labrador. You're back to where you should be sitting this time of year, even a little bit below, but between 18 and 19 degrees will be your daytime highs. Now, taking a look at our Saturday, beautiful. That should be the story pretty much across the board. We may see a few pop-up showers here and there into the afternoon and evening, but they'll be very isolated in nature. That will be the case for southeastern portions of Labrador as well. But temperature-wise, we'll return to more seasonable, about 18 degrees for St. John's. Temperatures through central and the west will sit somewhere between 20 to 22 degrees, and then teens the story for the northern peninsula, south coast. Same thing for Labrador. Coastal areas will sit in the teens through the day on Saturday, between 16 and 17 degrees, and then 23 for Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and Lab City. So a nice stretch of weather expected as we head through the weekend. Sunday looks beautiful as well. Temperatures back up to the 20s for St. John's and eastern Newfoundland, and we'll stay there by the time we get into Monday as well. Now, there is a chance we'll see a few showers on tap for Monday. But overall looking like a decent day. And then for Labrador, for central Newfoundland, we're looking at some shower chances really throughout the long-range forecast, either in the morning or in the evening for Friday and Saturday. Sunday looking a little bit more unsettled, and that will continue into Monday as well. But our temperatures will sit in the 20s, mid-20s by Sunday. And then for western Newfoundland, you're looking at much drier weather Saturday, Sunday, but some showers will return for you on Monday. And then for Labrador, you are looking at your temperatures warming up when we get there by Sunday. Look at that, 27 degrees, a nice stretch of weather there. These temperatures and sunshine going to dry things out fairly quickly. Keep that in mind. But for Monday, you're looking at a few showers. And then for western Labrador, overall, your daytime highs will be in the 20s, but by Monday, more gray skies and some showers in the forecast. Our weather photo today is of Bain Harbour. This is a great shot of some fog lifting there over the harbor. Pauline shared this lovely shot with us. I love seeing them. We love seeing photos. And if you have any, send them over. We'll show them on air. And all photos at cbc.ca is the best place, but you can also send them to my Facebook page.
Great shot. Thank you so much, Pauline. Very moody shot.
It is.
And Ashley, it's so exciting about Abby.
I know. It's so exciting.
That was
stayed up late.
Such a nice chat you had with them earlier. And I wonder how many families have 2 professional hockey players. Like, how many parents can say that they've raised 2 professional hockey players?
It's not many, but there are a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, that's it for us. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us.
Good night.